coming out. My name is Jackie Larkin, but my camp name, if you've been up to Fairy Creek, is Elderberry, which I kind of think is kind of appropriate. So we're meeting today on the territory of the Lekwungen-speaking peoples, the Esquimalt and the Songhees. We are uninvited guests on this broken treaty land, this stolen land. And I'm speaking, and those of us who are speaking today are speaking as settler elders. The circle of elders are all settlers, most of us white settlers, not all of us. And we know that we do not have the honor and the status of Indigenous elders. Nevertheless, we stand proud in our elderhood, and we are taking settler responsibility for helping to prepare the kind of harm, the grievous harm, done to the lands and the Indigenous peoples of this land, both by political decision makers and corporate entities and by our own ancestors. So we take responsibility by using what privilege we have to be in solidarity. So that concludes the territorial acknowledgement. I'm going to reinforce again COVID protocols. Please keep your masks on and watch your distance. If there are any media here, we have a media liaison. Steve, can you put your hand up? He's right there. If there are any media, I want to check in with him. Please obey the marshals in this. It's very important because we're going to take action that requires important marshalling. So the marshals are in vests. You can see them around you. So please do what they ask you to do. We're asking you to witness and support us as we engage in civil disobedience. If you want to engage in the civil disobedience, you'll have to follow the lead of the others who are doing that. And please follow our lead and be safe and observe good behavior all the way. So we're going to move on to the road, those of us who are willing to be arrested. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the setup for this. Some of us are going to be on the road. We're going to have 3 short speeches, and then we're going to have a couple of chants and a little bit of music. And then there's a second stage to this where we're going to go up the block here on Government Street. So please stay with us for the second stage. I promise you it should be a little interesting piece. Again, and to thank you and in gratitude to the humans who are representing ancient trees on this road. 900 years old, 15, 2000. So folks, let us not forget why we are here. Our focus has been on the Fairy Creek area, but our goal is to protect the last at-risk old-growth forest in this province. That's why we're here. We don't want to lose perspective on the big picture. Yesterday, the RCMP destroyed Eden Camp up in the Fairy Creek area. I've been there twice. It was a peaceful, creative encampment. There were artists and residents there. Their blockade included a car which was steel cabled around a bridge. And there was a newly built boardwalk which was a work of art in a beautiful sacred old cedar grove nearby. Okay, so folks, hold on. It was as if they were calling out to me to stand with them, these old trees. My heart aches to imagine that they will be brought down because the roads have already been built. Yesterday, the arrests continued. Every day, land defenders and forest protectors risked their lives and their livelihoods in human solidarity with these ancient trees. And yesterday, there was a government announcement. So I'm going to begin with the response from the Rainforest Flying Squad. We remain in the Fairy Creek area. There will still be large-scale logging that's not included in the deferral area, and we are consulting with Elder Bill Jones on the next step. So they are remaining, and we will remain. They are saying that this is a good deferral, and it's good that the province is responding to the request from First Nations. may be a small victory, and we honor the role that the First Nations there have taken in asserting their title. And we're glad for a little bit of retrieve for some of the forests. But this struggle is nowhere near over. So let's talk a little more about the Premier. He can make all the excuses he wants. He can put lipstick on a pig. He can paint a pretty picture. But the naked truth is John Horgan has broken his election promise to implement his, not ours, his old growth report in its totality. If he had kept his promise, he would have announced old growth logging deferrals covering 1.3 million hectares of forest all over the province. And what did he give us? Not most of that, not half of that, not like 10% of that. No, he gave us less than 1% of that.
Shame.
Less than 1%.
Shame.
He should keep the promise, and the trees need him to keep, and the forest systems need him to keep that promise. At the pace he's going, he won't need to protect the remaining 99.75% because they'll all be gone by the time he's finished consulting. So, my friends, this was not a monumental announcement that Premier Horgan made it out to be. It was more like brushing the dandruff off of his shoulders. So does anyone here believe that this announcement, this small victory, would have happened without the requests of the Patchadat, the Didadat, and the Huayet? No! Logging would have continued apace. Does anybody believe this announcement would have happened without the courage of Elder Bill Jones, of the land defenders who stand with him, of the forest protectors? No! We're called to action. This movement here is a movement with legs. Any of you who stood on a corner and heard the honks know that this is way bigger than the numbers gathered here. Parents are educating their children in the forest. This circle of settler elders has come together spontaneously. Folks are beginning to organize against logging in the Gulf Islands and in the interior. A woman is on a hunger strike in Nanaimo. And you're sending letters, you're pressuring MLAs, and there's daily buses going up to Fairy Creek. And that's just the beginnings of it. It's only with this kind of collective, organized pressure will this government move. So today, we are being civilly disobedient. And we take civil disobedience, we take this kind of action when ordinary people like us can't get politicians to listen to us. When ordinary people like us become the voice of those who cannot speak, the voice of the voiceless, the great trees and the ecosystems that we support, the voice that we need to give heart and fullness to when our hearts are breaking for what is destroyed. We lay down in the street, resisting arrest, placing our bodies on the line for what we believe in, sending a clear message, this is enough. And these precious humans on the road are representing the trees which have been destroyed in the interest of profit, of outright greed. And I want you to think for a minute. A 2,000-year-old cedar tree has lived for 26 times my 76-year-old lifetime. I mean, it's hard for us humans to get our mind around the depth of living and of knowledge that we only begin to understand that these old trees have to share with us. So the Premier wants the protests to stop. He wants us to go home. We're not going home. We're going to continue to bring the fight to Victoria and up in the creeks. To Horgan we say, keep your promise, immediately defer logging of all 1.3 million hectares of old growth at-risk forests in BC, and then talk. Protect all of the old growth in the Fairy Creek Central Wallbrand area instead of the little portion that leaves the heart beating on its own. Offer robust funding for Indigenous-led conservation solutions throughout the province so that Indigenous communities have the power to make real choices rather than forced colonial choices. And in that vein, respond immediately and positively to First Nations who are already asking for logging to be deferred in their territory and are being ignored. And finally, withdraw the RCMP, stop the arrests, drop the charges, get on with the job.
forest full of trees, plants, and animals, and the climate was predictable. I compare this to the climate and the world that I'm handing over to my grandchildren, to all of our grandchildren, right? A world in the grip of climate change and environmental degradation. And this happened on my watch. It's my age group that's largely responsible for this, the way we've carelessly destroyed so much of the earth. So it seems to me that the least I can do is to strive and struggle to preserve what is left for our grandchildren. I want to make sure they can go. I want to make sure that they can go to Fairy Creek and marvel at those huge ancient trees. Secondly, I am privileged as an elder white woman. I am a privileged person. If I get arrested, I am not going to be roughed up and shoved into a paddy wagon like those blockaders out at Fairy Creek. I will be treated with more deference as an old white woman. And so I feel like it's my responsibility, it's all our responsibility to use this privilege to stand side by side with those blockaders and say, we are all in this together. And lastly, as a somewhat ancient person who's been involved in various struggles over the decades for social and environmental justice, I feel like I've gained a bit of perspective as to how change happens. I've learned that governments do not like to change. They like to keep the status quo generally. And the only way we can get them to change is by exerting public pressure. And that's what we're doing here. That's what we're doing now, standing up. We're demanding that the government keep its promises. This is what's won us a small victory so far in Fairy Creek, and I thank you so much for being here. And I hope that when this event is over, you will continue to exert pressure. I hope you'll go home and phone your MLA's office and tell them what you think about the logging of old growth forests. I hope that tomorrow you'll come out at 12 noon to the mega rally that's happening right here at the legislature, Friday at noon. Tell all your friends. We need to keep building the pressure and not let up until Premier Horgan promises to defer the logging of all old growth in BC. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Susan. Susan has been one of the anchor organizers for this event, so appreciate everything that you do. Thanks for how much energy and old growth have. Somebody suggested that we could call ourselves Crows and Go Weezers. Figured that didn't have the dignity that we wanted. Okay, the third speaker is Anka, who's going to talk about what it's like up in Fairy Creek because she came back recently.
Thank you, Jackie. So my name is Anke van Leeuwen, and I'm a first-generation settler on this territory, and I'm grateful to be here. I went up to Fairy Creek twice so far, and I was so moved and impressed with the courage of the defenders of the ancient forests. So people are holding a line to try and slow down the road building equipment from getting to the ancient stands of trees. I have to ask, why is road building being continued there when we were told a few days ago that they're putting a stop to the logging of old growth forests? I saw last Monday when I was up there that ancient tree protectors are putting themselves at great risk of injury by placing their soft, vulnerable bodies in the way of road building equipment. After our group of elders broke through one roadblock, which was arbitrarily established a few minutes after we'd been told that we could walk up the road, and got close enough then to the second roadblock to see the scene behind the police tape, I held intense and sustained eye contact with a young woman who laid on her stomach in the middle of the road with her one arm locked to a cement block deep in a narrow hole in the ground. There were many police officers at the site. They were jackhammering right by her ear to to separate her from her flock, digging several feet into the earth. They came within inches of her hand. It took some hours to free her. Further up the road, other blockaders were waiting for their turn to be removed one by one. So a group of us old folks stayed with her as she collapsed emotionally. Then she was strapped to a police stretcher before being wheeled away to awaiting RCMP truck to join the previous arrestee, a 17-year-old Indigenous girl, in the back seat. Hands on our hearts, we sang a chant of support and care to her as tears rolled down her cheeks. And this is what we sang. Courage, sister, we do not stand alone. We walk with you and sing you safely home. That's a chant by Lawrence Cole. I just changed the words a little. So it was a very moving experience for us all that day. Our group of elders got to witness how creative and innovative methods are being used by blockaders in an effort to slow down and stop the roads being built to get to the last of the ancient trees. If you are able to go to the forest and support them there, please do. So I'm truly in awe of the love and the commitment of the people who are putting their bodies on the line to save their ancient forest relatives. I bow to you and I thank you.
Thank you so much for that moving description, Anka. We are, as humans, we're storytellers. And sometimes it's easy for us to identify with the experience of humans, and much more difficult to identify what's happening to a 1,600-year cedar. Because the living of life is so much slower, and we can't turn it into a human. But I ask you to think about what it's like to have grown for 1,600, 1,800, 2,000 years, and to be a rich part of a very alive forest system, sheltering so many species, and literally in minutes you are cut down. Just to hold it, because I'm sure that's one of the reasons why we're here. So we're going to invite, if one or two of the humans who are representing trees have a really short comment they want to make, they can get up off the ground and speak. And if they want to, if they don't want to, okay, well, that's all right. All right. I see a tree, a person arising. So please come quickly.
Thank you for coming out. And one thing that everyone can do there's one thing that all of you can do every single day and feel some power, because they don't want us to feel power. And I would like you to enter into your cell phone John Horgan's phone number. You have your cell phones. Can you bring them out, please? John Horgan's phone number is 250-387-1715. You'll get a recorded message, and you can keep it as short or as long as you want. 250-387-1715. You will find your voice. We need to do this together. Thank you for coming out.
Hey, are there any more trees who are lying on the road that want to briefly make a question?
I would just like to put it. Okay? Alrighty. I'd like to put this on a global perspective. Temperate rainforest
coming down, when elephants are killed. We haven't done a very good job about worrying right here. Right here. Okay, so Canadians actually think the world is looking at us. What are we going to do about our elephants and our orangutans? We've got them right out there. We're not talking so much even trees. We're talking about a temperate rainforest of which there is very little left. We haven't done well. A tree farm is not a rainforest. It's not an old-growth forest. And as a child growing up, just like Susan, through this whole era of watching it all happen, I was convinced that if you planted a tree, everything was going to be okay. My son is planting trees right now. I bless him, but it's not the same. Okay, let's do it.
Hi, my name is Pam, and I'm fairly new here, but I do want to say I have a lot of contacts within the NDP because I used to be a member of the NDP until this, and I can tell you a lot of people are just ignorant. They do think that planting a tree is enough, and you have to be willing to engage your friends too. Explain to them these are ecosystems that are being destroyed. These are eagles' nests. These are owls. These are, endangered species last habitats. So it's more than simply trees. And many of these people are really quite ignorant. They think, well, a forest management plan put in place by the NDP will do the trick. No, it will not. We have to be prepared to protect these ecosystems too. And we have to be willing to talk to our friends honestly, respectfully, but explain to them that this is a lot bigger than just a few trees. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pam and Dave. And so, again, I want us to bow to these old trees that have been cut down. You know, they've been cut down, and in a normal situation, if they had fallen down, they would be nurse trees. They would contribute to the growth and the vitality in the forest, and many other trees and leaves and mosses and insects would live in them. Instead, they're being either torn apart and just left there as rubble, or they're being taken to make big logs, or what's the word when they're cutting things? No, not shingles, but beams in people's boardrooms and the houses of the wealthy. The reason why they're logging old growth is because they make a lot more money out of old growth than they do out of the second growth that they've been planting. Okay, so I'm gonna do one chant and then we're gonna have a song. Of the chants, you should have the chant sheet if you do. Let's do a couple of the ones that we did. Just keep you going. Talk and log is Horgan's way. Making ancient forests pay. Making ancient forests pay. Talking log is Horgan's way. Talking log is Horgan's way. Making ancient forests pay. Making ancient forests pay. Ancient trees give us life. Ancient trees give us life. Stop the logging, stop the strife. Stop the logging, stop the strife. Ancient trees give us life. Ancient trees give us life. Stop the logging. Stop the logging. Stop the strife. Stop the strife. Okay, and here's a little repeating one we'll do, and then we'll turn it over to the music. I'm going to say work for the climate, and you're going to respond care for old growth, care for the trees. And that's going to be the repetition. Work for the climate. Care for old growth, care for the trees. Okay, that was confusing. Yes. I will say work for the climate, the first phrase, and then you will respond care for the old growth, care for the trees. Okay? All right. Work for the climate. Care for the old growth, care for the trees. Support First Nations. Care for the old growth, care for the trees. Support communities. Care for the old growth, care for the trees. Keep your promises. Care for the old growth, care for the trees. Protect our heritage. Care for the old growth, care for the trees. Thanks, everybody. Okay, how about a little bit of music?
So 30 years ago we had the War of the Woods. 50 years ago we had the anti-Vietnam protests, all of which are very similar in terms of rallying civil disobedience across society. So I thought we would steal a song from Country Joe and the Fish. Ain't Fixin' to Die Rank. Is there anybody out there old enough to remember the song? Okay, I'm gonna test you because you know it's been a few years, right? So here we go. We'll start with the chorus. We'll do it real slow once, just so you get the idea. Well. Well, it starts in C something. Okay. 1, 2, 3. What are we fighting for? To save our old growth trees. We're tired of saying please. And it's 5, 6, 7. Soon it's gonna be too late. It ain't no time to wonder why. Act now, don't let them die. So Premier Horgan's in a terrible jam. Unlike the trees, he makes no stand. He patters and potters and comes up short. Let's give the people another report. So grab your sign, forget this geek, and head out to Berry Creek. Well, it's 1, 2, 3. What are we fighting for? To save our old growth trees. We're tired of saying please. And it's 5, 6, 7. It ain't no time to wonder why. Lockdown, don't let them die. So don't give me ifs, ands, or buts. We can't afford no more clear cuts for every effing police raid. We'll send more folks to the blockade. If he wants to test our mettle, get arrested. And it's 1, 2, 3. What are we fighting for? To save our old growth trees. We're tired of saying please. And it's 5, 6, 7. Soon it's gonna be too late. It ain't no time to wonder why. Act now, don't let them die. One more time. Well, it's 1, 2, 3. What are we fighting for? To save our old growth trees. We're tired of saying please. And it's 5, 6, 7. Soon it's gonna be too late. Well, it ain't no time to wonder why. Whoopee, don't let them die. That's all right. All right. Sounding good. Are you good for one more? If you flip your song sheet over, there's some on the one. Anybody not got some? Come here. Okay. This is based on May the Circle Be Unbroken, and has been adapted by our very special red-haired to my right, Rachel Tuppy. So. In the old grove by and by, there's a better way of logging where the ancient trees don't die. I'm just standing in the forest on a cold and cloudy day. When I saw the chainsaws coming to take the mother tree away, may the circle be unbroken in the old grove by and by. There's a better way of logging where the ancient trees don't die. As I marched in with the elders, trying to stay strong on that day, my heart filled with admiration, chained in the ground 3 youths did lay. May the circle be unbroken in the old grove by and by. There's a better way of logging where the ancient trees don't die.
one more time.
In the circle, be unbroken, in the old growth by and by. There's a better way of logging, where the ancient trees don't die. Thank you.
Awesome! Thank you all so much. Wow, that was dynamite. That's the most vigorous rendition of the "We Made the Circle Be Unbroken" that I've ever heard, too. That was great.
Greetings to all of you gathered and to those far beyond our provincial capital, Victoria, British Columbia. I acknowledge that I am standing on the territories of the Lekwungen-speaking people of the Songhees and the Esquimalt First Nations. I am on the lands of First Nation people where my ancestors have for generations been part of colonial practices that have harmed both the people and the lands of this beautiful part of the world. The First Nations of this province were the first to welcome others to these territories, to their supernatural homelands of abundant life, diversity, and grandeur. I am speaking to you from the province where people from across Canada, from our neighbors in the USA, Europe, and from around the world come to experience with wonder and awe the natural world, the biodiversity of creation, the lakes, rivers, and oceans, the mountains, the forests, and of course, the magnificent ancient old-growth trees. Old-growth forests that are unique to most in the world for their size and for the biodiversity that they support in their home, the coastal temperate rainforests. As the BC Tourism website claims, we are a province where nature is nurtured. From massive mountain ranges and windswept beaches to rainforests overflowing with life, discover how BC's diverse landscapes shape our people and culture. Yes, tourism is very important and a growing part of our provincial economy, and I am supportive and encouraging ecotourism in our province. We want to share the natural wonders of this beautiful place with others because we know that once people explore the beauty and grandeur of the ancient rainforest, they would never agree to cut them down. We want the world to know that this city is where decisions take place to cut these ancient trees down. We want the world to know about BC's totally unnatural clear cuts. We realize that COVID has curtailed your travel plans this past year, but we want to invite you to travel virtually to any of the many sites online, #OldGrowthBlockade or #OldGrowthForest, to see for yourselves what's taking place in this supernatural wilderness zones of BC. Just beyond the fringes of trees left standing at the roadsides, there are vast areas of clear cuts. BC's ecotourism and vacation guide trumpets the ultimate Vancouver Island adventures to explore seldom seen fjords and ancient rainforests. It highlights the Clayoquot Wilderness Resort in the Clayoquot Sound UN Biosphere. Imagine if the largest civil protest in Canada's history to date in 1993 hadn't taken place. There would have been no Clayoquot Wilderness left if that war in the woods hadn't taken place. Imagine that. Yes, we want the world to know that our ancient forests are important to everyone on this planet. In face of a climate emergency where thousands of world scientists have given us 10 years to change everything that we are doing, re-emissions, these precious, sacred, ancient, old-growth trees that still remain standing are all of our best allies in fighting climate change. We want the world to know that the old-growth temperate rainforest has the largest carbon storage capacity per hectare on Earth, and that every person in this world is impacted by decisions made here in my hometown of Victoria. In fact, we want the world to celebrating the UN Decade on Ecosystems and Restoration this very week. Check it out. Hashtag Generation Restoration. Use it on all your posts about old growth. Does it make sense to you folks to cut down and destroy the largest natural, ancient, biodiverse ecosystems in the world so some tree plantations could be planted? No, that doesn't make sense to you, and it sure doesn't to me. What if the remaining ancient raincoast coast forests and watersheds were granted the rights and protections of personhood, like those given the Magpie River in a recent Quebec court decision? Now that would be a brilliant tourist decision. Let's not let Teal Jones or anyone else cut down these trees and ship them overseas. In supernatural BC, just like Premier Horgan said, our ancient old growth trees are worth more standing.
I've been NDP supporter for 50 years, and I'm ashamed. We cannot get along in here. I really support the elders who have taken part in so many of these protests, who trudged up with me, who trudging up a long logging hill with a backpack and a stool in the other hand. And as you go up, along with about at least 80 other elders, the RCMP jump into two little cars and race the hell right down that tree so they don't have to confront us. Elders are very powerful. I encourage anybody. You can be an elder. You can be an elder when you're 5 years old, for Christ's sake. Join us. Talk to your friends. Tell them what you're doing and why. You can do anything when you're old. They don't want to arrest you, I tell you. It's a real hard job. I've been trying. When you have time in your hands and you have energy, put them into the battle, because this is going to go on and on and on. What should we do with the trees? Honor them. Keep them. Don't pay anybody any money for them. Don't buy them. Money does not buy heritage. It does not buy ancient trees. Thank you very much.
We'd never been to Fairy Creek. I think I've met more Indigenous youth and elders in the last 2 months, 2.5 months, than I've met in my whole life. And it has been a wonderful spiritual journey. And I just wanted to embellish what the previous speaker said and what Susan said about the power of rising up to get social change. And I think that's why we're here today, and I think we're going to win this battle. When I was at Fairy Creek, I had the opportunity to hear Elder Bill Jones speak, Grandma Rose, Hummingbird, some of the frontline defenders, and it was so moving. But what was even more moving was the way the Indigenous people were working with the settler forest defenders and land defenders to bridge this gap and protect the sacred space as best as possible. So I'd like to just close with a song, because I know my wife is going to shoot me because she's the police liaison officer. So I'd like you all to join me in this song. It's adapted from Tom Petty, and it's called "We Won't Back Down." Have you got a D chord? It starts in B minor. Oh, okay. So we're just going to get a... Yeah.
Oh, he's ready. Liam? While he gets set up, I just want to say, in case we get moved away and I don't get a chance, there are free buses starting tomorrow. I want to be the first tour guide in this ecosystem. I want to learn that what I haven't learned, and I want to be educating children. So there's free buses tomorrow. They'll be parked out there. I've got 5 on standby. If we want any more, they hold 52. They've got toilets. We're going on a tour, and we're going to look at the beauty that's there. Thank you. Oh, that's Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Okay. Well, we won't back down. No, we won't back down. We'll defend these trees and the sacred ground, and we won't back down. We will stand our ground, won't be turned around. These trees are worth more standing, never cut them down. We're going to stand our ground, and we won't back down. Well, we won't back down. No, we won't back down. We'll defend these trees and the sacred ground, and we won't back down. We will stand our ground, won't be turned around. These trees are worth more standing, never cut them down. We're gonna stand our ground, and we won't back down.
I forgot the time of the buses. There's a big rally here tomorrow, so when you're done with that, just hop on the bus. I'll be there waiting. And if you want to go camping, just load up your camping gear before the rally, and then we'll set off, and I think we'll be coming back about 6:15, or you can stay overnight. And there's 3 buses. Thank you.
Where are you going?
We're going to Fairy Creek.
Wow.
Yay!
Okay, we're going to have a little rendition of the 1, 2, 3 rag, and then we're going to bring this to a close, folks.
Well, it's 1, 2, 3. What are we fighting for? To save our old growth trees. We're tired of saying please. And it's 5, 6, 7. Soon it's gonna be too late. It ain't no time to wonder why. Act now, don't let them die. So Premier Horgan's in a terrible jam. Unlike the trees, he makes no stand. He panders and ponders and comes up short. Let's give the people another report. So grab your sign, forget this geek, and head out to Fairy Creek. 1, 2, 3, what are we fighting for? To save our old growth trees. We're tired of saying please. And it's 5, 6, 7, soon it's going to be too late. It ain't no time to wonder why. Act now, don't let them die. So don't give me ifs, ands, or buts. We can't afford no more clear cuts. For every effing police raid, we'll send more folks to the blockade. The NDP wants our metal tested, so let's go get arrested. And it's 1, 2, 3, what are we fighting for? Don't have to be all trees. We're tired of saying please. And it's 5, 6, 7, soon it's gonna be too late. It ain't no time to wonder why. Act now, don't let them die.
Awesome. Thank you. No words right now, okay? We're going to bring this to a close. I'm going to make some announcements, and then we're going to bring this to a close. So I'd like the ancient stumps to be ready to stand up in a minute, but let me just make the announcements first. So there's a big rally tomorrow at the legislature here at 12 o'clock. I think it's going to be about 2 hours. It's expected to be a very big one because there's a coalition of groups pulling it together. Please join that. Every Wednesday, there is a vigil in front of the legislature from 4 p.m. on in front of the legislature at 4 p.m. So please join them. There's usually a good turnout for that. Thirdly, if you like to do banner waves on the Pat Bay Highway on Wednesdays and Saturdays at 11 o'clock at the Roberts Road intersection, that's one of those walking bridges that goes over, there's a banner wave every Wednesday and every Saturday at 11 o'clock. Please join if you want to. You have to look it up yourself. It's up that way. Up that way. It's kind of halfway out. You've got all the announcements about the buses, which I was going to do. Follow the Rainforest Flying Squad on Facebook if you want to know what's going on. Rainforest Flying Squad, or The other one is the rainforest blockade. Both of them post updates.
Fairy Creek blockade, yeah.
Oh, sorry, Fairy Creek blockade, not rainforest. Fairy Creek blockade on Facebook. And those of you who are Instagram savvy, they're also there. I'm just not savvy on that, and I don't have it written down. Sorry about that. And so now I want to going to thank people, and then we're going to have the stumps close this. So I want to thank everybody that's been involved in this. Everybody. It's been amazing getting this organized. It's been a huge job. I think all of us elders are wanting a little bit of an afternoon nap after this. And particularly beautiful to have the music and all of your energy in addition to the speakers who were terrific. So thank you to everybody. Thank you for supporting us. So, no, please. Okay, we're not going to take a bunch of announcements now. Okay, so folks, if you want to know about the buses, come and, what's your name?
Say it now. Nobody, they just ask you. I'm sorry, it's my first rodeo, so after the rally, get on the bus. We will come home at 6:15. On Saturday, it's going to be probably departing at 9:30, so that's a day trip. So and then again, leaving it's outside the BC Clock Tower. They are tour buses with toilets. We're going for an eco tour. They're very, very comfortable, and I've been trialing it all week. So please join, just hop on, and I look forward to seeing you there. Has anybody got any questions? No. Thank you.
So thank you very much for all the organizing that's going into providing buses, because they really are an important way, especially for folks like ourselves that might find that a lot easier. You might want to know that up at Fairy Creek, what they're doing is indiscriminately towing every vehicle that goes up there and telling you that you have to pay $2,500 to get it out. Well, people are kind of getting around that, but that's really not the issue. You can be parked completely legally on the side of the road and they're towing. So what's going on there, the violation of people's rights at Fairy Creek is phenomenal, and I want you to pay attention to that. So those are all the announcements for now. I'm going to ask the stumps to stand up in a circle facing one another for a moment. So a quick circle of the stumps. Yeah, so let's celebrate these stumps. These elders who were willing to lie on the road and be arrested if necessary. And there they are in circle with one another. So stumps, I'm going to ask you first as stumps to bow to one another for doing the work together. So, yeah. And now I want you to turn out to the crowd and turn and bow to everybody who's come out to support you. And I ask everybody to, for a moment, imagine that they are actually honoring the lives of 1,600-year-old, 900-year-old trees. That you're actually honoring the lives and the deaths of these trees, and hoping that their deaths and the clear cuts that we've seen that shows the devastation will actually, in the end, serve a greater vision of the way that we can live in this world and the way that we can live with forests. Thank you, trees. Thank you, stumps. Thank you, everybody.